I think we have to talk a little bit about Jake Paul as he takes on Mike Tyson this weekend.
Inside the training camp of Mike, I think he is taking this seriously. He's putting in a lot more work than what he was doing against Roy Jones.
Not doing any types of shrooms, no
weed,
smoking, no nothing like that. He's locked in. He has found the old Iron Mike Tyson again, the guy that he's been trying to hide.
But then again, is the age going to show up?
Exactly. I mean, he's still 58. Like, how good can a 58-year-old really perform?
I mean, a couple years ago, he was riding on a hoverboard and he fell off.
Yeah. Also, a couple years ago, he was also in a wheelchair, wasn't he, for something? But it's that aura. He has the name about him. Mike Tyson, former undisputed heavyweight champion, baddest man on the planet. That's who Jake Paul is going up against.
At the moment, Jake Paul, he's looked quote-unquote unbeatable. If Mike Tyson gets knocked out by Jake Paul, I'm telling you right now, it's the end of the world. Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be giving our official predictions for Jake Paul as he takes on Mike Tyson at the AT&T Stadium this Friday, as well as giving a recap and our thoughts about this past weekend's fights, featuring Boots as he took on Kareem and Bam Rodriguez as he took on Pedro Guevara. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Also, don't forget to join our Discord. The best way to get in contact with us is by joining our server. Everything that I mentioned is in the link in the description below. But now diving into the episode. First thing first, I think we have to give our official predictions and talk a little bit about Jake Paul as he takes on Mike Tyson this weekend. You know, it's a very controversial fight in many aspects. Jake Paul has always been a man who's a very polarizing icon in boxing, and he's always had the big critique of fighting older fighters, MMA fighters, and I guess he decided to change it up this time, and instead of fighting an old retired MMA fighter, he's going for an old retired boxer. And in this boxer we have Mike.
Yeah, I think he even took it one step further, which is Mike Tyson, I believe, is the oldest fighter that Jake Paul has ever fought. You know, the biggest talking point probably is Mike Tyson being 58 years old. That is grandpa status. That is, you know, well past your prime. And his last fight, the last time Mike has stepped foot in the ring was against Roy Jones Jr., which was 4 years ago. So that's still a good amount of time. And even in that fight, you could tell he was very old and very not nowhere near his prime. So I don't know. Jake Paul, you know, I don't know if this was the right move. The only good side about this is going to be a mega fight. It's going to be on Netflix, AT&T Stadium. This is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. I mean, I'm not even sure how much the ATM that stadium can hold. Like, you know, it's such a big stadium. They're going to be using all of the field, all of the stands up there. So that's going to be nice. You know, it's very crazy to even think about when Jake Paul first really started getting into boxing. Who would have thought that he would be fighting Mike Tyson within 8 years, short 8 years, and now here we are. That's so crazy to me.
Yeah, so Jake Paul, he's coming off a win against Mike Perry over the summer in a fight that was originally supposed to be scheduled for the Mike Tyson fight, but Mike Tyson had a medical emergency, had to pull out, and had to postpone the fight. So at the moment, Jake Paul is, I mean, if you base him off his last fight and even his fights prior, he's looked quote-unquote unbeatable. You know, he's knocking out everyone. He's stopping everyone. All these fighters, these MMA, UFC fighters who go into the ring with him just meet the same fate, and that is, you know, destruction. I mean, he is coming off also being like Andre August and Ryan Borland, which I was fine with those wins, you know, because I saw that they were trying to go for that direction of taking a more traditional career path for Jake Paul, as he's noted several times that his goal is to become a world champion one day. And I was fine with, you know, him fighting Ryan Borland and Andre August. But then he's diverted back into this whole entire making into a spectacle, because I think he himself realized he needs the viewers. He needs the people to be watching him. I mean, if he fights Ryan Borland, yes, of course, he gets the zone coverage, but no one's really going to be watching like as a hardcore fan of Jake Paul, he needs people to watch him fight a big name in order for him to make the entire event a spectacle.
Well, he's hit the jackpot. I mean, we got Mike Tyson, right? So that's going to be a great thing. But going with Jake Paul, I mean, he has been improving, actually. This is one thing, he just started boxing, 6 years ago. So he's still relatively new, but he has so much money. He can throw so much money to each camp, and he has been improving at a very exponential rate. So it's actually quite impressive to see Jake Paul, get better and better each and every fight. And now, I mean, he's going up against Mike Tyson, who obviously does not have the skills. Nowhere near does Mike Tyson have the skills that he once had, but it's that aura. He has the name about him, the presence. Mike Tyson, former undisputed heavyweight champion, baddest man on the planet. That's who Jake Paul is going up against, and that might play into Jake Paul's psyche.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, his recent fights, Jake Paul, the way he comes into the ring, he looks a little bit nervous. So now this is going to be the biggest stage of his career. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can actually control his nerves and whatnot. But something that you mentioned is that Jake Paul was maybe a few short years ago, he was just calling out saying or stating the fact that he wanted to be a champion, possibly in the cruiserweight, maybe heavyweight, but possibly maybe the cruiserweight or maybe that new weight class that they've been trying to impose, the bridgerweight champion. Whatever the case may be, do you guys still think Jake Paul still wants to become a world champion, or is he now changed gears and changed focus into maybe just making big mega fights?
Well, I don't see him becoming a world champion anytime soon. I think he's under the impression that he's had, he's still early on, right, let's say, and his learning curve is obviously going to be exponential, especially for a beginner like him. And also he has the resources to fund his training. He has the best camps. He has the best nutritionists. I'm sure he does a good job with the team around him, building up a good team. And he's able to do so because he's got the money to do that. And hence why we've seen a big improvement factor from Jake Paul in recent years, especially this past year and a half after his loss to Tommy Fury. But that's still not enough for him to compete against the top 20, top 30 people, even in the cruiserweight, in the heavyweight division. I mean, it's a very tough road for Jake Paul if he wants to actually impose himself as a legitimate threat in whatever division he tries to settle in. And I don't see enough from him yet to even consider him a prospect, a top prospect in that manner to be a future world champion someday.
No, I mean, yeah, he's never going to become a world champion. He's never going to touch a world title unless this is the only path that Jake has for a title is if, Mauricio Suleiman, which is behind the WBC, just throws him in there in the top 10 just for the fuck of it,
For the money, man.
Hey, that's true.
For the money, the sanctioning fees. Oh man, he's gonna get a lot of money for that.
It's gonna be a cash cow for Mauricio Suleiman. So, but on a serious level, no. I mean, Jake Paul isn't gonna come anywhere close to it. I think he just uses that as like a talking point. Like it's a shtick that he has, just talking. I want to be world champion. He also throws around, I want to fight Canelo Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? He just kind of says stuff to build a hype around his boxing career. And I think him saying he's going to become a world champion soon is one of those, just talking points that he really just says without really meaning. So yeah.
Also, going back to the fight in general, I've seen a lot of people talk in line, as we get closer to the fight, a lot of people starting to get some buzz and excitement. I mean, we were on Netflix recently and we saw that they're already promoting the event. There's already been some episodes being dropped. And a lot of people are coming out saying that Mike for this training camp is a different Mike to the training camp that he had against Roy Jones 4 years ago. They're saying that this Mike is one that's, not doing any types of shrooms, no
smoking,
no
weed.
smoking, no nothing like that. He's locked in. And Mike Tyson himself came out stating that he has found the old Iron Mike Tyson again, the guy that he's been trying to hide, trying to keep down. That one has emerged again. And so once he came out with that quote, a lot of people were exploding and saying, yes, we got him back. Jake Paul shivering in his boots after seeing this quote. Do you guys believe that we're going to see a better Mike this fight compared to his last fight against Roy Jones 4 years ago?
Well, I absolutely hope so, because if Mike Tyson goes into the fight with Jake Paul like how he fought Roy Jones, I believe he's gonna lose. I rewatched the fight with Roy Jones, and it was not anything special. I mean, you could tell they're both aging fighters that well past their prime and super slow. I mean, for Jake Paul, he doesn't even have to be that good. He just has to be quicker, than Mike Tyson. So I think that was a really big talking point. Yeah, how are we going to get Mike Tyson? In what form are we going to get Mike Tyson? And from the videos that we've been seeing on Netflix, inside the training camp of Mike, I think he is taking this seriously. I think he is. I think he's putting in a lot more work than what he was doing against Roy Jones, and it's definitely going to show. So I believe we're going to get a better version of Mike Tyson.
I think so too, and I think it's showing right now. I mean, just comparing his physique from when he fought Roy Jones to now, now that he's fighting Jake Paul, he looks a lot more, what's the word? No Diddy, but just tighter. Everything looks a lot more, tone, like just the muscle and stuff like that. So he's looking good. He's looking like a great 58-year-old. But then again, is the age going to show up?
Exactly. I mean, he's still 58. Like, how good can a 58-year-old really perform?
Well, people are saying or coming out saying that Mike Tyson isn't your average 58-year-old. If you look at his most recent, let's say, for example, heavy bag work, he's moving great for his age. He's still, nothing to the explosiveness that he once had or the movement or speed even. But he looks really good for his weight, for his age. And I think that's what is throwing off a lot of people too, in the aspect of, they're deciding who should I vote for, Jake Paul, or should I vote because he's younger, the fresher fighter, or should I go for Mike, a legend, but he is old. And they see videos of Mike hitting the heavy bag, destroying the bag, and they're like, okay, even for a 58-year-old, he looks great. And then the pictures of him coming out looking compact, looking in good physical condition for his age is really, I feel, increasing his odds with a lot of the fans who maybe are on the edge. They're a little moderate. They don't know who they believe will win the fight.
Yeah, definitely. I think as we get closer to the fight, I think more people are swaying towards Mike Tyson just because of all the promotion that's been showing Mike in great shape. And this is another thing as well. I mean, when you're old, you can still get in great shape, right? You can look really good, but it all comes down to the reflexes, all comes down to the explosiveness, your eyes, how well can you see the fight. And recently, I mean, Jake Paul has been looking in top form. I remember when he fought his last fight against Mike Perry, I was thinking this fight was going to be really competitive, really close. Mike Perry is, he's one of those guys that doesn't give anyone respect. He doesn't have the greatest skills, not even close. But he's a guy, who is going to go in there and try to knock your head out. And Jake Paul, I mean, performed amazing. He looked great in there. His timing was good. And he looked like he took the pressure from Mike Perry and used it against him. And that's kind of what Mike Tyson's going to do. Mike Tyson's going to go in there, try to use his, what's it called? Peekaboo.
Yeah.
The peekaboo stance, a waist movement, and try to pressure Jake Paul onto the ropes and land some devastating shots. So Jake Paul, I believe his last fight, although it can't be comparable, it's similar enough as a Mike Perry who's just going to come at you. I think Jake Paul got some experience with that type of style.
Yeah, in that aspect, fighting against opposition that is very aggressive. Sure, he has some experience under his belt now, because Mike Tyson is an aggressive fighter. But here's the thing. Mike Tyson is a lot bigger than any of the opponents that Jake Paul has fought. So that's going to be another thing to take into consideration. Like, this is going to be the first time that Jake Paul is going to go up against a guy who possibly he is the underdog in this fight.
That's another talking point, how big Mike Tyson is.
Yeah, if Tommy Fury was the favorite in the fight when they fought. So it's not the first time being an underdog, but it is the first time I would say, fighting a quote-unquote legitimate.
I wouldn't say legitimate. The only thing I'd say is someone his size.
Yeah,
I think Tommy Fury was his size, maybe even a little bit bigger. And I think Mike Tyson, he's shorter than him, but I think he's around the same weight as Jake Paul. So that's what I'd say, around the same size.
Also, Jake Paul is going up in weight for the fight. They've been bulking him so he can hit the heavyweight limit. And I'm not sure what weight they're trying to decide what where to put him at. Maybe I would say like a low, like 220, 215.
That's what I think. Yeah, I think I think they were saying that they're gonna bulk him up to 240. You remember when those pictures of him came out when he was fucking massive? I think he was like 240 around there, and then they said they're gonna try to drop him to around 220.
Let's see how that's also gonna play a factor. Jake Paul, first time fighting at that weight. It's gonna be interesting to see how he himself is able to hold up at that new weight class with that much extra weight loaded on into him. I mean, is it gonna play a positive? Is there gonna be a good result from him doing that? Because it's a bit risky move from him, and I know they're like taking into consideration because Mike Tyson, natural heavyweight, we got to match up with him in the aspect of power, perhaps. Mm-hmm. So what kind of approach are they taking there
for Jake?
Yeah,
I think it's they're gonna try to use Mike Tyson's aggression against him. Because, Mike Tyson loves going in the front foot and being very explosive. That's his type of style, the peekaboo. But, I mean, he's not that explosive anymore just because, the age. So, I think they're banking on the fact that Jake Paul is so much younger and he's improving very quickly and he's in training camps the whole year that his timing is going to be good enough to catch Mike Tyson when he's trying to, like, come in, lunge in with a big left hook or something.
Yeah, for me, I think Jake Paul's team and Jake Paul, they're just banking on the fact that on Jake Paul's youth. I think that's what they're really trying to do. The move of bulking him up to 240 and then bringing him back down to 220. I think that's going to help him in the long run because you have to take into consideration, his age right now. Jake Paul is 27, 28. That's his prime years. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing a clip of Mike Tyson stating that he's probably going to be coming in at 230. So from 220 to 230 ain't that much, but when you also take into consideration of the age gap, I mean, I think it's going to favor Jake Paul.
Yeah, it should be very interesting to see how those factors come into role for the fight this coming week. Well, I kind of want to talk about the rules for the fight in a sense. It's a young fighter taking on.
It's a real fight, isn't it? It's not exhibition.
It's sanctioned as a real fight that's going to be put into, their records. Yeah. But there are some stipulations because of Mike Tyson's age. All right, for example, one of them is they're not going to have 3 minute rounds. They're going to be having 2-minute rounds. And the bout cannot go longer than 8 rounds.
So it's 8 rounds.
An 8-rounder with
8 rounds, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same format that they did with Roy Jones. It was 8 rounds, 2 minutes.
Also, they will be wearing 14-ounce gloves and not 10-ounce gloves.
It's a big glove.
That is, yeah.
But I'm baffled because how is it a sanctioned fight with exhibition rules?
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like an exhibition.
Yeah. It's an exhibition rule. Like, it's an exhibition fight. I mean, but they're sanctioning it off as a legitimate fight, which makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, when this fight first got announced, wasn't it first exhibition fight?
I don't remember, to be honest. That was
I
a while
believe
back.
so. I think when they first announced it was going to be an exhibition, and a lot of, like, backlash came around, and then they're like, oh, no, it's a real fight now. So, I don't even know. Maybe they're gonna swindle the audience, It's like they're gonna trick them and be like, "Yo, it's a real fight," but then they have like exhibition. Yeah,
they have headgears of the
no
night of the fight.
It's like in fine print in the asterisks and in the footnotes of the contracts, like Jake Paul can't knock out Mike Tyson.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a little whack. I feel like so I'm not mad about the 2 minutes per round. Sure, fine. I'll give them that. But 14-ounce gloves is pretty heavy. That's too heavy for me.
I mean, those are sparring gloves.
Those are sparring gloves that, if you fight at the lower weight classes, that's 14-ounce gloves are pretty heavy. So they are big guys. So in theory, it shouldn't matter too much, but they can still generate enough power. But 14-ounce gloves is 14-ounce gloves.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy for these rules to be implemented. I mean, this is the format they decided on. Both fighters agreed to it. And yeah, maybe now that you mention that, I do think it was an exhibition when they first announced it, and then people came out backlashing it, saying this is dumb. So I think this is their way of kind of covering up the veil, saying, even though they are exhibition rules, they get put in the records, win or lose. So I think that's the way of them trying to cope with it, or to at least get the people to say, okay, it's fine then, right?
Yeah. Well, this is another thing. I mean, Jake Paul, since the start of his career, there's been this, this conspiracy theory, this rumor that he fakes all his fights. Is this gonna be another fake fight against Mike Tyson?
No, I truly don't think so. Yes, I remember. You see a lot of things on the internet. Saying that Jake Paul fixes his fights, his opponents take dives and whatnot. Yeah,
especially Tyron Woodley. I know so much people believe that Jake against Tyron Woodley was like fake because it's like, oh, look at his sign with his right hand and then he lands it. I'm like, these guys are stretching so much.
I remember going down that rabbit hole and they're like, yeah, obviously this is fake because once Tyron Woodley went to the canvas face down, ass up, on the back of his trunks, it had a little a sponsor that's from Dude Wipes, and they're like, look, he was just trying to sponsor his sponsorships or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I was like, bruh,
Nah, they're reaching.
Yeah, delusion.
Yeah, I don't agree. I mean, of course, everyone. Oh, it's easy to piggyback hate on or dogpile on Jake Paul with the hate, mainly because when he first he fought Anisan Gibb, whatever, he fought a YouTuber, that's fine. They're both YouTubers fighting each other. But the moment he was going to fight Nate Robinson, that's when people were saying, oh, there's no way that Jake Paul beats an actual athlete, and that was the first argument towards it, or the first, saying like, okay, Jake can't beat, like, he's a professional athlete. He beats him. Oh, okay, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's crazy. And then he's going to fight Tyron Woodley. Oh, he can't beat Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley was a UFC. And then he beats Tyron Woodley not once but twice. And now there's always going to be a new argument against Jake Paul. And right now, the new argument is he can't beat Mike Tyson. I mean, Mike Tyson, we're talking about the former baddest man on the planet, former unified or former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world at one point. This is going to be very interesting to see how people react, regardless of if Jake Paul wins or he loses. I mean, if he wins, I know the internet is going to get destroyed. The boxing community will not recover. People will be absolutely calling for corruption, for scam, especially if it's if it goes to the scorecards. People are going to get baffled. But if Mike Tyson hypothetically gets knocked out by Jake Paul, I'm telling you right now, it's the end of the world.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be crazy. I don't know what the internet's going to do because, like you said, I mean, whatever Jake Paul does, hate follows. He can do the best thing in the world. He can save kids in Africa. People on the internet are still going to find something to hate on him for, right? So he's always going to be hated. And but this is one thing. I can't really gauge what the boxing community really feels about this fight. Like, because some people, obviously, the majority of people are saying this fight shouldn't have been made. Okay, I agree. But then when it comes down to predictions, it's kind of like I'm not exactly sure who are they leaning against.
Yeah, I remember. So just yesterday, Matchroom had a show yesterday in Philadelphia, and so they were doing this little segment, just kind of like promote the show and whatnot. They were just asking all the fighters on the show, Mike Tyson or Jake Paul, and there was kind of like a mix of reactions a little bit. So I wonder if that's what people are thinking, like it's just going to be a 50-50 fight because they're taking just the age into consideration.
Yeah, and another thing as well is that, like, if you say, oh, I'm going for Jake Paul, I think Jake Paul's going to get KO'd, people are going to hate on you, right?
Casual.
They're going to think that you're supporting Jake Paul and that, and Mike Tyson, you're a casual. You don't even know. Do you even know what Mike Tyson did in his career? They're going to say all this type of dumb stuff. So I feel like there's a lot of people, though, that believe Jake Paul's going to win because of the youth, because just he's in top form and Mike Tyson is Mike Tyson, but he doesn't fight anymore. So I don't know how the boxing community is really going to take into consideration this fight.
Also, I feel like there are still some unknowns about Jake Paul, more in the aspect of his chin. He's never really been clocked to a point where he's been legitimately, you can see that he's clearly hurt, buckled.
The only one person was Tyron Woodley in the first fight.
Yeah, but he wasn't like devastated. He was maybe off balance shy, if anything. So regardless of that,
I think he was a little bit dazed, but
maybe so. Yeah. But he hasn't been tested ever since then. And that was years ago now.
Yeah, and he got dropped against Tommy, but I mean, it was a jab. Unexpected.
No,
too.
Tommy dropped. Oh
yes. Jake. Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
Jake was one who dropped Tommy Fury. But no, Jake Paul hasn't touched the canvas at all. There hasn't really been that big of a moment where he's been in very serious trouble throughout his career. So I think a lot of people are also putting into perspective that Mike the Killer. He's the one who knocks out everyone. Has punching power. I think they're trying to believe that if Mike Tyson is able to connect with a good shot, at least one good shot, he's gonna hurt Jake Paul, because we don't know how good his chin is at all. And I don't know, if I was a betting man, I don't think Jake Paul has that good of a chin. If this is like kind of arrogant or whatever, like I can't prove it, but I just believe he doesn't have a good chin.
Hey, I mean, they say that that power is the last thing that goes in a fighter. And Mike Tyson had like 99 stat power when he was young. Maybe it's not 99, but maybe it's still 88. Maybe it's still good enough if he lands the perfect shot to knock out Jake Paul. I mean, I think it's definitely possible, but I think the question is, can he land the shot?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Jake Paul's chin. What about Mike Tyson's chin?
That's true.
He's 58. I mean, a couple years ago, he was riding on a hoverboard and he fell off.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to take a toll. All the damage that he's sustained throughout his career, does that not accumulate?
The hoverboard was the most damage he's ever taken.
Yeah, also a couple years ago, he was also in a wheelchair, wasn't he, for something?
Yeah.
I don't know why he was in that wheelchair. I don't know, so... Hey, that could be also another talking point. Like Mike Tyson might not be able to take shots like he once used to.
That's crazy to think that both fighters have the ability to knock each other down with one punch.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this fight, quote unquote, appealing to a lot of people, especially even your typical traditional boxing fans.
You already know a lot of typical boxing fans are gonna watch this fight.
Of course
they're gonna watch it.
People are gonna call it a clown show. Say this is comedy. This is what has boxing come to. But at the end of the day, they're gonna watch it. I mean, it's gonna be on Netflix. Shit, if you're already subscribed to Netflix, you get to watch the fight for free. So all these people who are calling it clown show, saying this fight shouldn't have been made, which is true, are still gonna watch it, man.
Yeah,
we're still gonna watch it, and you're still gonna have your own thoughts and opinions about it after the fight. You're gonna say maybe it was rigged or Jake Paul is the greatest of all time, stuff like that. It doesn't matter. At the end, you're still going to end up watching the fight.
That's why I think it's always so dumb, because, I don't know, there's always like a stigma if you like tap in, even if you mention like the influencer side or like Jake Paul, who's kind of the head of the influencer side. They're like, oh, you're a casual. It's like, buddy, you also tune in too. I know you watch the highlights, okay? So don't act all high and mighty. Don't get on your moral superiority. Like you're the same as me.
Yeah, these old heads think that they know more than everyone else just because they have the age.
Yeah.
Well, I think now that we've kind of dissected a bit of the fight, let's give our official predictions. I've earlier on, before when the fight was first announced back in June, or I think it was June or July. It was July. Leading up to that, before it got postponed, I was leaning towards Jake Paul to win the fight. And and now that the time is finally here, we're a couple of days away from the fight taking place. I don't know. I'm having a bit of I'm a little mixed at the moment between.
You're conflicted.
A little, yeah. Yes, I am. Maybe it is the propaganda of what Mike has been saying that the old him has returned. Which Loki was a pretty hard quote. I can't lie.
Cold.
It was cold. And also this, him training. It's a lot better than I was expecting. But then at the same time, I'm thinking logically, and I'm saying, well, we're talking about in his prime Jake Paul, who he's you can hate on him all you want, but he actually works hard. He puts in the work. He's investing in his career, and it shows. So I'm a bit. It's a bit hard for me to choose right now. If I were to do my official prediction, I think I'm gonna stand on business from what I said earlier, and I'm picking Jake Paul to beat Mike Tyson. I don't know in what way. If it's gonna be scorecard or knock. If it's a knockout, it's gonna be. That's the most insane scenario.
Mega viral.
Most viral moment of the year. It's the most insane scenario. I can't even imagine it. But I'm picking Jake Paul slightly, just based more logically, just because of the youth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For me, I was really hard. Like, I've been going back and forth. And just like you, I was actually going, an early prediction. Like, right when this fight was first announced, I was thinking, I think Jake Paul should have it. I think, he is younger. But, now that the time has gotten closer to fight night and I've been thinking a little bit harder, I think I'm going to have to go with Mike Tyson. And it's not because of... I'm not picking him because of, what he did back in the 80s, the 90s. He was, fighter of the year, fighter of the decade of, whatever decade he was in. in his prime. Just the knockouts that he did. I'm not thinking about all that. I'm just thinking about the fact that on paper he should win. Like, if we're just speaking facts, logic, I believe he should win. He has the experience, and the experience is truly, it's power. They say power is the last thing that goes away. I think it's the experience is truly the last thing that goes away. Mm-hmm. And I just think that Mike Tyson's gonna go in there with a good game plan. I think he understands his situation, his age. And I think he's going to use that to his advantage. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, the experience.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it to Mike Tyson by decision. There's no knockdown.
Decision? Wow. Okay. So I'm going to agree with Pablo. I think it's going to be a Jake Paul victory. I think, honestly, he might drop Mike a couple of times. I'm not even going to lie. Because watching back the Mike versus Roy Jones fight, Mike Tyson was just rushing in way too much. And I could definitely see one of Jake Paul's counter right hands landing clean. So I'm going for a Jake Paul victory.
By KO or just decision?
I think decision, but there might be a knockdown in there.
Oof. That's going to go crazy. See, even a knockdown is enough for the internet to be from either end, too. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, right, this fight is it's a blockbuster fight in the aspect it's going to go viral. Whatever happens. If it's a snooze fest like Pacquiao and Floyd was, the expectation was super high, and then it didn't deliver. People are going to be upset, and they're still going to talk about it. So I'm telling you right now, this fight is cooking up to be a very big spectacle, very big moment in social media. And regardless of the scenario, I know people are going to be pissed off. So those were our official predictions for Jake Paul as he takes on Mike at the AT&T Arena or Stadium this Friday. So it's something we're going to be obviously tuning in for, and hopefully we get a good spectacle out of it. Yeah. But to kind of end the, talk a little brief talking points at this later portion of the episode, let's go over some of the what we saw this past weekend in regards to Boots and Bam Rodriguez. First off, talking about Bam, I think Bam is certainly cementing himself as literally he's building up a Hall of Fame career at 24. I mean, and he's looking better and better with each and every fight. And this fight against Pedro Guevara, tough guy. He earned his title shot after beating Andrew Maloney earlier in the year by split decision. And he's a tough fighter. And he just was no match for Bam. Bam just is continually proving that he is levels among his peers. Mm-hmm. And there's no one in the division that may even step up to him. It's maybe time to maybe unify, because he wants to become maybe undisputed at 115. Maybe do that quick and then move up to 118 and see how you do there, because we got Junto Nakatani there.
Yeah, definitely. I think for Bam Rodriguez, the future is looking mega bright. And I think the most impressive thing about Bam is the fact that he's only 24. Mm-hmm. He's only 24 years old. He's so young. Like, he has so much potential. And from what we've seen, if he can improve and he's performing like that, like, where is his ceiling? How good can Bam Rodriguez really get? I mean, he could really be a Hall of Fame type fighter, cement himself completely in the history book. So I was extremely impressed by this performance, and he looked amazing in there.
Yeah. Last week we gave our prediction, and I predicted that Bam was going to get the knockdown or the knockout, and he did it. But what I was just surprised was that he did it super quick. What was it? Second round, really early in the fight, and he got him out of there. And it looked like he didn't even break a sweat at all. So that was really good for him. For me though, I do truly think that he is on the top pound for pound. I think since his last fight, you could say maybe he was 10, 11, but he was like on the cusp of being on the top 10 list. I think now he's definitely on like 8 maybe. So yeah, and I think he's a guy who a lot of people sleep on because he's he's a small guy. A lot of people here in the United States don't really look into the lower weight classes. But yeah, I feel like ever since he beat the guy from Thailand, Saran Visai. Yeah, I knew that he was gonna be great. Right away. I was like, yeah, he's doing this, and then he beat Cuadras. And
beat Cuadras first.
Yeah, he beat Cuadras first, and then he beat Sarangai. The Sarangai fight was the one that really told me that, yeah, this guy is. There's really no ceiling for him. He's gonna go very far. And then he beat Sonny, but the last
El Gallo.
El Gallo.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
he beat El Gallo, and then I was like, yeah, now people know who Bam truly is.
Yeah, and this is one thing. Another talking point is that he's been Bam Rodriguez is like a legend slayer.
Yeah.
He's been Sarang Visay. He beat El Gallo Estrada. He beat Cuadras and Sonny Edwards. But one more person, which is the top person, Chocolatito. Chocolatito is still fighting, and they actually have met each other in the ring before. Bam Rodriguez and Chocolatito had a famous sparring session a couple months back, I believe, or maybe a year ago. But so they've met in the ring, and he's technically Chocolatito is the only legend standing that Bam Rodriguez hasn't dethroned. And they asked him in the post-fight interview, and he said, "Yeah, that sounds badass." His words.
If they were to fight, I think Bam would destroy him. He would obliterate Chocolatito. Chocolatito, former number one pound for pound fighter in the world during the 2010s. No, and he's a legendary fighter with legendary pedigree. But he's at an age right now that he's not gonna be able to compete with Bam, and it's apparent with these legends in the game, that have come up against Bam Rodriguez, that they're no longer at that pinnacle of their career, and Bam is just exponentially rising to the occasion. And every single time he rises to the occasion, he shows a better version of himself. So imagine how that version of Bam Rodriguez would look against this aging Chocolatito.
I think he stops him.
I think he does too. I think he stops. And Chocolatito, nice guy, bro. I don't want to see him go out like that. Okay,
He's a God-fearing man. He's a very nice, kind fighter. And I really personally would not like to see that. I'd prefer Bam Rodriguez go up to 118. I think so.
Yeah, I know a lot of just the commentators from last night were wanting him to move up right away. Even who was it? Chris was saying that he would like to see him fight Inoue, like within a year and a half or some shit like that. And I was like, it's a little too fast for me, and I think it's just a little too fast for Bam. I think he still needs to take the steps before he even goes and fights Inoue. I feel like Junto Nakatani would be a fight that's possibly near the horizon that we could see next year.
And I'm surprised that the commentators didn't even mention Junto Nakatani. They were just talking about Inoue and Bam. I'm like, okay, yeah, I agree. I want to see that fight. It'd be a great-ass fight. But also, we're just completely glossing over Junto Nakatani, who was the king at 118. And he looks unstoppable. So, and that's a close fight to make. That's only 3 pounds difference. So, I mean, I think that was a bit strange, and it sounds like Bam Rodriguez is taking his career slow. He understands he's only 24 years old. He understands, if he wants to fight Naoya Inoue, it's going to take him some time. There's a weight discrepancy and also a skill discrepancy and an age discrepancy. So I think, Bam Rodriguez knows what he's doing. It sounded like he still wants to make a couple fights at 115, trying to go undisputed or unify at least, and then move up to 118.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Bam is only going to continue to get dangerous as time goes on. He's only 24. He can definitely take his time if we're talking about maybe fighting Junto Nakatani Inoue. He still has time to improve his skills tremendously. And I feel like he should take his time. I think right now he should just focus on his legacy, career. What does he want to leave behind? And, at 24, it's looking really great. I feel like unifying at this weight class and then moving up, it's going to be so good.
So Bam Rodriguez returns with another KO win this past weekend, and he was co-main event to the main headliner in Philly featuring Boots as he took on his IBF mandatory in a rematch, Kareem. We were mispronouncing his name last week. I apologize. Now we know, okay, it's Kareem, not Karen. But Kareem, I still don't know how to say his last name.
I think it was Chuck Tian.
Nah,
Something like that.
We'll go with that.
I'll call him Kareem. I'll keep calling him Kareem. Yes. Look, this fight, I enjoyed the fight a lot. It was a lot better than I was expecting. A lot better than anyone was expecting. And it was apparent based on what people were saying after the fight. And Kareem pulled a very great performance for himself. Of course, he didn't get the victory. He did get dropped once, but he's a tough guy, man. And he showed he had pretty good inside game, and he's just very unorthodox in the way that he had Boots thinking a lot, and he connected Boots with hard shots that we've never seen Boots being connected with. And he was the aggressive fighter throughout a lot of moments. He had a lot of good moments in the fight, and I think he put up a real good, not experience, a real good performance for himself. And now a lot of people are really giving him a lot of merit to the point where they're saying that Kareem is capable of beating any of the other champions at 147.
Yeah, Kareem definitely showed out. He showed a great performance and a very mediocre performance for Boots, and a performance that the boxing community is giving him hate for. People are not liking Boots' performance at all. They're talking a lot of shit about him, saying, you're going to perform like that against Terrence Crawford or even Virgil Ortiz. Like, who do you think you are? And it's kind of crazy. Yeah, the boxing community definitely did switch up a little bit on Boots, and a lot of doubts are being spread on his name. And this is what I'd say. I would say that Boots is trying a little too hard to get the KO. I think he's forgetting his defense to just go 100% on offense. And there is some advantages to that, but there's also some disadvantages. I mean, this Korean guy is tough, and he's very unorthodox, like you said. Very unorthodox. Boots couldn't really get his timing, and he was kept on getting caught with that hook. A left hook.
Beautiful left hook, too, man. He snapped his head back multiple times throughout. He even got him off balance in the first round, and that's when people were saying this fight might be a bit tougher than what Boots and his team were expecting.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think Boots, it's because, and another thing as well is that is because partly it was because of his corner. His father was in the corner telling him, yo, get this guy out of here, man. Come on, use your angles. Get this guy out of here. And I was like, bro, let's. I mean, Kareem has his own thing, bro. You're not just gonna get him out of there.
He was still game.
He was still game. He was still strong. So I don't know why his dad was like putting in his head, go at him, kill him, like end the fight. And I'm like, take some time, box a little bit and get the correct shot on Kareem and hurt him like that. Instead, he just went completely 100% on the offense, and his defense suffered, and you saw it in the fight.
Yeah, it looked like his father, Ennis Sr., had somewhere to be right afterwards because he was like, hey, end it, bro. I got to go. I'm on a time crunch right now. Yeah, because the instructions were the same from the first half to the second half. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. You can get him out of there. Yeah. So just for me, my prediction was that I thought Boots was going to get the stoppage, and it turns out he didn't get the stoppage. Mm-hmm. And it turns out Russia underestimated Ukraine, I underestimated this Ukrainian fighter.
Yeah, that was a fantastic analogy. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I greatly underestimated him. I thought he was gonna come in with the same game plan as he did with in the first fight.
Well, that's a good point because there was no reason to really hype up this Korean guy. No. In their first fight, it was a snooze fest. This guy Kareem just ran around for 12 rounds and lost a unanimous decision against Boots. So there was no reason for us to go into this fight and be like, oh, Kareem's going to put up a fantastic performance.
Or he's going to do better.
Yeah, we just thought it was going to be like the same old, but I don't know what happened in that first fight with Kareem, but in this second fight, he definitely showed who he is.
Yeah, it looked like he was more willing to engage, to take a bigger risk, and I think it actually paid off a little bit in the end in the aspect that, like, morally, I guess, you could say that this is the first time Boots has been touched. This guy touched him. No did he? But I still feel like, for me, I think the boxing community, I think they're putting too much hate on Boots. I think they're, what do you call it? They're like hot and cold. I mean, you can be really hot. Boots' last fight, he stopped David in the same arena by going forward, and everyone was like, yo, Boots is the real deal. Boots beats this guy. He's gonna be undisputed. Now it's Boots is overrated. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's the case. I think they're being a little too harsh, or a lot harsh on him.
Yeah, boxing fans, like we've talked about it multiple times, they're very critical, and they tend to switch up on people, And this fight, of course, was a lot tougher than anyone would have expected. Not just Boots and his team who believed that, who went through it. But no, you cannot tell me that you believe that, like you said, that Kareem was going to come in this type of way. He implemented so much new things in his game, and it was incredible to see this, 180 difference in his performance from the first fight.
He looked like a whole different fighter.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I'm giving. I give Boots credit for beating that version too, because you can say then this was the best version of Kareem, and Kareem showed that he's a tough, durable fighter. And if people don't see that side of it, then they're just gonna say, "Oh, since Boots wasn't able to knock him out, therefore he's terrible," or because Boots got connected a lot, especially with that left hook, he's not gonna be able to compete against Virgil Ortiz, Terrence Crawford, or even so. I think a lot of people, like you said, are being a bit too critical on Boots, and I don't think it's fair. He got the victory at the end of the day. I saw him win the fight still, but yeah, it was a bit of a tougher night for Boots and his team. And I know also I didn't like how he presented himself on at the post fight interview, talking about moving up. He's like maybe
Immediately.
maybe 147 isn't maybe time to move up. And Boots was super frustrated. I know he was pissed off. And when the fighter starts talking, when they have a performance below their standards, and they start talking about moving up in weight because they can the weight division that they're fighting in no longer caters towards them, it's a bad sign. Mm-hmm. And it shows that he is not happy. He got really frustrated, and I thought it was a bad look for him, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Boots is a little bit arrogant. You know, he's a little arrogant. Like he wants the top guys, and he wants them now. And he doesn't understand why he's fighting these lower level guys. So it's like in the fight, when it started getting a little tougher, you could see it in his face. He was getting frustrated. When Kareem was holding him, there was a lot of holding, especially on the second half of the fight. When Kareem started holding him, I mean, Boots was like, with the ref, he was like making faces, doing this and that. Like he was not having a good time. So I think, and it also shows just like him just trying to knock out his opponent. It shows he's arrogant. He wants a big fight, and he wants it now. And one thing is that there was a lot of people talking online. Mm-hmm. Ryan Garcia, Oscar de la Hoya, talking about Virgil Ortiz. So maybe the benefit of having a performance that is kind of mediocre for Boots is that maybe more people want to fight him now.
Holy shit, I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, because he's been labeled up until this past weekend, he was labeled as the boogeyman at 147. Once Crawford moved up, they were like, "Oh yeah, Boots is definitely gonna take over." Now that Crawford has left, the throne needs to be taken, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's the boogeyman. It's Boots." Now, the conversation is a little bit different. Now, I think it's possible that people did see Boots get exposed a little bit, and now they may be willing to get into the ring with him. Brian Norman Jr. even said that was a bad performance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see if they actually get in the ring with him. There's a lot of still moving factors in boxing, especially with the whole making or pushing an actual fight to come into reality. So we'll see. I still believe people are being very critical and very harsh on Boots way too much. He got the job done at the end of the day, and you live and you learn. I can guarantee you he will look a lot better for his next fight.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you guys believe that he's ready to take on the elite at 147?
Yeah.
154?
Yeah.
154. I mean, because the elite at 147 and 154 are different. Boots is the elite at 147. But at 154, I don't know. Well, this is one thing. I mean, I think the most fight that people, or that even Eddie Hearns was talking about, was a Virgil Ortiz fight in Riyadh. And I believe it was February or March. Mm. With Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis at 154. So that could be a fight that's next.
Hopefully it gets made, that fight, because I'm trying to see some carnage in that ring. Oh. Virgil Ortiz always brings in the fight. He showed it with his fight against Sergey Bohachuk, and I want to see that fight. That's always been a fight that's been brewing since they were both at 147. Mm-hmm. So that was a bit of our thoughts of what we saw during this past weekend's doubleheader featuring Bam Rodriguez and Boots. I think we've covered everything we wanted to talk about in today's episode. Let us know down below, who do you guys have to win what's your official predictions for the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight? Do you think Jake Paul has enough power, or has a lot more factors pushing them towards victory than Mike Tyson? Or do you think Mike Tyson is still Mike Tyson and is still the baddest man on the planet and will get the job done this Friday? Also, let us know about your thoughts on Bam Rodriguez. Do you think or consider him a top 10 pound for pound fighter? Do you think he is a future Hall of Famer? And also let us know about Boots. Do you think he underperformed, underwhelming? Do you believe that he's ready for the elite at 154th, especially since he's already talking about moving up in weight division? Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, TikTok, and Instagram. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, so you guys joining will be hugely beneficial for us. The best way to get in contact with us to talk about boxing and about whatever is down below in the link in the description. So this was Pablo, and I am with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.